So, at the end of the last video, I kind of lied. Not surprising, I do that a lot. And I said something about, I'm not the kind of person who likes to plan things. I just kind of shoot from the hip or whatever. And I remember this because, you know, only about 5 minutes have passed. I just started, you know, processing the video and whatnot. And that seems kind of odd, and it really isn't the case. I'm the person who's paralyzed by decisions and can't make a decision until I happen to, you know, just say, screw it, I can't analyze this anymore. I'll just fucking do something. And in this case, it wasn't really that kind of thing, but there was this barrier between what I was seeing in terms of, you know, the game state and whatnot, and how I was able to analyze the situation. And it ended up being a very bad choice by the Yorkists. But neither side knew what was going on, so it ended up kind of random, which does happen. And I've had this happen in opposed games. All right, so what is the story so far? Because that's the important thing, right? Not some babbling of some half-remembered, you know, comment, the throwaway comment at the end of the video. The last couple turns have been really, really intensive, with battles swinging one way and then the other. The last couple of battles have, the Yorkists were winning in terms of the battles, but the last couple of battles have gone in favor of the Lancastrians, where they have driven off Warwick. He went into exile, but then came back immediately, which, you know, is one of the mechanisms in the game that I have some issues with, and came in conjunction with Gloucester and launched an attack, essentially, on Margaret and Oxford. One that was really ill-advised. I thought that their forces were weakened enough from the previous battles that a fully equipped Warwick would be able to deal with them. But the truth of the matter is, with their vassals, they were able to beat him yet again. And this time, he's out of this war. He'd be dead if he was anyone but Warwick, but he's not. Unlike Henry, who actually was captured and whatnot, and should have special rules, and does in the historical standalone scenario, Warwick probably would have been executed after a battle. He had no special position. He wasn't the king or anything like that, where they had reasons to say, yeah, you know, maybe we can't just kill him. And especially since he wasn't even, you know, standing with the Yorkists. He had no Yorkist support until this turn. No direct support. Well, now, wait a minute. Didn't he? Yeah, Rutland was over there before. But yeah, now his marker's gone, his cards are out of the game, and he'll show up for the next war, presumably because he shows up in all of them no matter what, I think. But anyway, we had really a lot of back and forth going on, some significant battles. No real good reason for these battles, except for the thought that in this last one, at least, Warwick thought that he could knock Margaret out of the game with it. Well, didn't turn out that way. Turned out that the best, most powerful of the Yorkist lords is gone now, and we're left with no one but Gloucester to keep the game alive right now. Sorry, Gloucester. We can't pronounce that U. But there are plenty of Yorkist lords available. They're just, they have to rely on his influence rating to bring them onto the board before, say, some of the Lancastrians are able to track him down and take him out. And what do we got right now? Well, we still have a Beaufort within range, sort of, kind of, but that's about it. And otherwise, it's these, who I think I'm going to need to try to use boats to get there, but boats don't really get me there, as I was saying in the last video. And we do have who shows up here? That lion. Is that Salisbury? Oh no, this is a Lancastrian line. That's Northumberland is available. Who actually is probably closer than anyone else. And does come in with a fairly significant force. Might be able to put things to the test. Not a lot of valor on him though. And we saw the value of valor in these last couple of battles where outnumbered forces, at least technically in terms of total number of pieces, but these vassals are pretty powerful. We're able to defeat a larger contingent. Outnumbered, but with better quality nobles available. Anyway, that's all we're doing tonight. That much I can guarantee you. But we're on another big turn coming up, a 7-card turn, then another 6-card turn before we push on. You know, the last war ended about this time. I wouldn't be shocked if this one again ends in the second year. That's kind of what the designer's notes indicate, is that a lot of these don't go the full 3 years. And that's fine and dandy. The only problem I have with that is that after 3 years, it ends up just being kind of this crapshoot, and a very, very closely run thing could end up being a victory. I think I would change that. And it wouldn't be that hard to do, right? You just roll over and start back at the beginning so that a single war could last more than 3 years. The question there, though, is, are there impacts on the countryside that would really need to be reflected to show one of these Wars of the Roses that actually lasted too long? Would there be problems? And to me, that's the victory check going down makes sense, right? Like, it eventually comes to the point where one side or the other would be in an untenable position just because of war weariness more than anything else. But that doesn't also doesn't take place in these campaign scenarios. Again, I feel like there are things that I would tinker with in this design, and they're not big. They're not big. You know, they're just little things on the edge that are really, really upsetting me in some weird sort of way. Oh, here it is. Shockingly, it's like around noon. Depends on how you want to cut things. It's noon my time, 11 a.m. for everyone else, which means I've gotten about 6 hours of sleep. I feel a little underslept. I'm used to getting, you know, a lot recently, but I'm gonna try to stay up for most of the day. I need to do something. I need to try to ship that excess game that got sent to me by my mistake out, and probably get some more chocolate, because I don't know, I'm just fucking craving chocolate so much. But I wanted to comment on the fact that, before we start actually flipping cards or whatever, this system, the Levian campaign across the board, is a hard one to assess who's going to win the fight, right? In a way, you could actually say it's kind of similar, you know, something like Axis and Allies. Sometimes you look at it and there's different kinds of troops and they hit on different roles, but it's more complicated here even than that. As opposed to, say, your traditional war game, where it's very, very easy. You look on the odds chart. You know, you look at the odds, and you're like, well, is that a good column on the odds chart? Or a buckets of dice type game, where you're like, well, I've got more dice than him, or whatever. And you can kind of argue that both this and Axis and Allies have a buckets of dice element to them, but because they hit on different numbers or defend on different numbers, in this case, it's not that easy. And this one is particularly hard with different multipliers for the different types of units in terms of how many hits they provide, and then different ranges for whether or not, you know, they're able to save, and then the valor chits and all that. It is difficult to assess who's going to win. So don't hold me too harshly for Warwick taking the victory there. Anyway, here we have Gloucester. Gloucester. You know, the thing is, that's Gloucester. That should be Gloucester. That would have been how it originally would have been done. This campaign, Yorkists may sail for just one command action. That's always useful. I have no ships right now. I could build some, but... An honest tale speeds best. Through the end of this campaign, being plainly told, through the end of this campaign, including in levy, each Lancastrian parley costs 1 extra influence point. Useful, but it looks like Margaret's going to probably be trying to hunt down the last of the Yorkist heirs if I'm not careful. So, would have been more useful at other times in the game. Aspiels, Lancastrian spies. Inspect all the Yorkist held cards and 1 hidden Yorkist lord mat if you're playing with the hidden rules, which I am. This is particularly interesting. Might want to do it. If I remember. La Universelle Reine, Louis XI of France. Select 2 Yorkist mustered vassals. Their lords check influence for each. Failure disbands the vassal. There are no vassals in play. So that drops. In terms of payment, yeah, we got our coin here. Do I have it here? Yep. And then we drop to, what else? Lords. Obviously, Gloucester has to stay in play. Question is, do I want to keep Oxford in play? This is a 7-card turn. I think so. So that'll give a net of 1 over to the Yorkists. I'm not really worried about points at this point. I'm trying to win the game militarily now, hard as that may end up being. And then the final is vassals. Those guys don't cost anything, so nothing there. On to muster. I got to bring somebody in. I don't know who. Obviously, Devon gives me the most potency, but March is not far from me. Like, bringing Devon in keeps me very much separated. I might be able to be defeated in detail that way. So, a little bit of thought there. Don't know. Don't know. And do I want to draw 2, or, you know, do I want to try to grab capabilities here? He's slowed down with only 1 cart. I got to think a little. So I spent 1 extra influence to get Devon on a 3. I'm trying to remember influence checks. Yeah, so I could have spent 2 more to bring that up to a 4. That might have been wise. Because again, the game's probably not based on influence. But I figured with 2 rolls I'd be okay. But I didn't really want to use 2 rolls. I grabbed some carts. Maybe too many. Too many carts. In order to allow me to move a little bit more quickly rather than try for a second lord. This isn't going to have any effect because I don't have any boats. This is going to be of some use throughout. Now we go to the musters for Margaret, and this is kind of interesting. So maybe I want to go hunt down Devon, right? Because I can't do much against Gloucester on his own. But this might be a good time to bring Northumberland into play, because he's up here, a possible threat to Richard. Wells is on my way. I could create quite a large force and operate that together in a way that might be of great value. One thing, though, is being able to take that influence point change away, but I wouldn't have any taxation available, which is a thing to consider. Northumberland only starts with 1 coin. I'd have a hard time getting him money. So mustering him would be painful in certain ways. We should get Falkenberg on board. Where's he? Dover. He'll be showing back up. So yeah, this is hard. And a lot of the lords, so like Shrewsbury is pro-Lancastrian, but he's controlled by the, you know, he'd be able to be mustered only by the Yorkists. Well, with that penalty, it's not going to happen. Bonneville didn't seem worth it. Falkenberg, again, the opposite side, a pro-Yorkist lord in Lancastrian territory. Plus, I have enough vassals. What do I need to do? It's a hard decision. I think I want to bring someone in, though, because it's a 7-card turn. I got 6 cards worth of people. Next turn is a gain lord's influence. I can start swinging the points heavily my way. It's going to be damn hard to capture, to deal with both of these. That's the problem. So I think we will spend a Margaret influence to try to bring the younger Somerset into play. Somerset. He's a 4. Do I want to raise that to a 5? Yeah, why take further risks? And we'll be getting him. That will mark, I'll mark as one of these points used, and then think a little bit more. Remember, he's not going to be able to muster anything of his own, though. Hard calls. I was going to play this Women of the Crown, no, Yeomen of the Crown, which is a really, really nice card for Margaret. If her retinue fails an armor roll, she can instead rout one of her unrouted men-at-arms, which means I can get rid of these 1 to 3 guys on a 1 to 4, and that looks like I can just continuously do that. My men-at-arms are just going to be bonused as if they're the retinue. So, well, essentially I keep putting the retinue up and lose men-at-arms for it. Of course, I can't do it too many times. Now, that would be a really useful card if I'm going to battle. But if I'm going to battle, I've got a bit of a problem, which is, I'm looking here at Oxford. Now, I could grab 2 ships with Oxford. And that would let me carry everything I've got. 1 ship's not enough because I've got 1 too many cart and 2 too many provender. I think this is probably my best move. Allow me a faster move to Dorster. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. Like, a lot of them I make fun of. I think it's Dorchester. Dorchester. I think you kind of pronounce it there, but it might just be Dorchester. And it may depend on where in the country you are. I think I like the idea of 2 ships for him, and then take this nice fighting card. And then, of course, I have Somerset in play as well, close by, which is useful. And that will get me everyone and flip it over to the campaign side. Again, Northumberland didn't look like he's worth it because the Yorkists kind of boned me out of any income there. And I'd end up turning the area against me. Now, it might not be that bad because the area is already against me, but I wouldn't be able to gain anything. I'd be wasting cards on it. All right, and I'll be back up in a little while, but I want to read. I'm so worried I'll just fall into a nap no matter what I do. As I didn't talk about the other alternative I wanted to do with Oxford, what I thought I would do. What I kind of wanted to do was grab a cart with him because I don't have a lot of mobility between the two of them, but it's okay. But maybe even more important was grab some troops. But the only thing he could grab is a couple of militia because he's in a damn town. That's not going to add a lot to my fighting prowess. Although he's so weak. But when we bring Somerset into play in conjunction with him, I can keep Oxford from taking the damages and, you know, or let him. I don't know. He's not that valuable in terms of trying to hunt down Devon. I think I'm in a good position to do that. Would I have been better off maybe taking March into play? Yeah, perhaps. I wouldn't be being stuck in possibly, you know, in Cornwall for my death, but on the other hand, that would make it much easier for Margaret to hunt down the sole remaining lord or lords and bring them to a singular battle. Of course, if all the lords on both sides are there and none of them are able to use that nobody's able to use that 5 influence exile runaway capability again. Every lord on the board right now, none of them are willing to fight on if there's no support left. So if there is a final battle, you know, if there's sort of an apocalyptic battle in this war coming forward, and there probably will be, what that'll mean is that will end the war. We're in that position. No one's got the kind of influence that they can keep returning. All right. Now I go down. All right, after burying some shit in my yard and a little bit of reading, back up here. I'm tired as hell. I don't understand what it is. It's because it's daylight out, man. I'm going to do all of Devon's actions first. My goal... Geez, I've got a... Shit, I didn't realize Somerset was there. So I've got like 2 options. One is to run away, and one is to try to fight my way through Somerset. I think I'll try to fight my way through Somerset. I don't see another option that's reasonably valid. And by powering up this way, I have a taxation capability, and I can try to push up and join Gloucester. And then I can use Gloucester to move Devon around as needed. I'm finishing things off with a pass because I think I want to get my actions done quickly. Now we think about our good friends over on the Lancastrian side. And we have to remember this. Lancastrian parleys cost an extra influence point. I don't know how much that matters because, I mean, if I have to convert areas, I have to convert areas. You know, I'm not going to reach out and try to pull more than I need, but as you travel through territory, if you want to supply, if you want to tax, if you want to do anything, you have to control the area around you. Choices for the Lancastrians are a little bit more tricky. It's not as clear. I want to sail Margaret to Dorchester and then bring Somerset down. That's easy enough. Then I want Margaret to launch an attack, and then things get complicated. I don't know what I want to do. I have these extra cards. I'm going to throw them in, grab supplies, whatever is needed, and see what I have to do. But I would like to be ending with a Margaret card, but I just can't afford to. I feel like I have to have a pursuit in play, which means I could lose to Devon. That's not going to happen, right? Devon could escape, in which case I want to be doing the movements as quickly as possible to be able to catch him. Or if I trap and succeed in defeating Devon or chasing him off the board, Gloucester is going to have a lot of opportunity to move around at the end of the turn, but I don't see a way around this. And I think this is battle, right? I only have, okay. So I will tax, because there isn't a lot of option for me. Like, I can't afford to carry provender or whatnot, and then I will launch an attack against Somerset. I do have this to protect me, but I don't want to use it yet. Although I'm weaker than Somerset, which sucks. I just don't believe I have any option. I believe I have to batter my way out. Because if there's no approaches available, I can't make my way there. Of course, I could make my way over here, convert things, and then try to sail somewhere. But I don't want to play around with that. Somerset has less influence than Devon, so I can't get out of there. I'm going to fight because I know I'm better, right? Devon just got mustered this turn. Somerset just got mustered. We're on our basics. On we go. It's a close run thing at this point, at least. Sure, I've got an extra man-at-arms, but that's in an extra militia. So I have a little bit extra damage that I can take, and I've got a little bit extra damage I put out during the melee phase. But right now, the missile phase, it's 5 each. Luck could go with Devon here, easily. After relying on my retainer to soak up the last couple hits, where the difference really was, right? Now they're exactly even going into the melee phase. And they'll be going in with 4 hits each. Exactly the same chances. So things improved significantly. Now, you know, I could have fiddled around, maybe used my retainer instead of this, but that would give me a chance of losing the battle during the missile phase. And can't do that, man. Devon is beaten. And not much I can do about this. It is, where did we fight? We marched into Wells. Let me remember to put this here. Which means that spoils are captured, full spoils, not the coin. And I guess the important thing to check is, do we get the 3 through 6? Is Devon gone from the game? We do. I had no cards that could help. Big deal, because it means I only get 3 cards for Gloucester. That's it. And meanwhile, Margaret, Oxford, Somerset, they can all try to combine. Now, Somerset's been weakened heavily by this fight. But, you know, it was worth it. Got rid of a lord. It's running down. It's getting lower and lower. Devon was a particularly good one because he had a high influence. That influence got charged against me for the loss. I still think trying to break out was the right move. I started out with less than a 50-50 chance, but I ended up with basically a 50-50 chance of winning that fight. That may not be fair, because there was the chance of mutual annihilation as well. To travel by sea now, I mean, it would be equal either way. But I'm moving up to Salisbury. That gives me a better opportunity to gather provender with whatever cards I have next. So that's kind of useful. And let me guess, I did 3 Devons in a row, didn't I? Yeah. So then we end up with the Somerset, which I don't know what I want to do with. I almost certainly want to tax. I already taxed? Apparently not. Do I need to tax? 2 turns away is waste. I got enough money everywhere. I do not want to tax. So I don't know what I want to do. I don't want to expend that, except where I must. If I had the great ships or whatever, Margaret could have sailed into Bristol, which would have been advantageous. But I don't, and therefore I have to go around Penzance, and that's no fun. But later, Margaret moves us into Bristol. Somerset ends up not doing what I did. I was using those boats. I can't do that. So screw that provender. Now I'm weak on provender. Good, there's an Oxford. He can grab it. What I need to do is I need to convert this 2 spaces. That's going to actually cost me 2 influence to do, but it gives me a city. Meanwhile, Gloucester has moved more towards the center, so we're going to see this shifting of strategies and whatnot as we go. This is why I couldn't plan out what the hell was going to happen over here with the Lancastrians. And now Gloucester gets to go again. He's out of food now. With the amount of stuff he has, he could do a double food collection. He doesn't have the capacity to carry all that, which is problematic. I only have 1 more card. So if I grab a single provender, or a double provender, I have enough cards I can grab it from anywhere. I'll grab it from Shrewsbury. And then I can move I have the advantage in cities, but they're going to start scooping up my cities, man. So if... Oh, Gloucester has 3 actions. I think I threw 1 away. Did I? I moved, I converted. Yeah, I should have another provender here already. More than I need, more than I can hold with that Shrewsbury depletion that I failed to take off. Okay, so this is my second action. I think I want to move to Leicester. Need some faster movement here. And then 2 conversions on a town. And then I have to eat. Now I only had 3 that I was able to carry, which means I dropped down to a 2 provender. I think that's what I do. I've got one more move where I could move, convert for Petersborough. Or move, convert, supply up here. I'm not sure which I prefer, but anyhow, we're in an Oxford, which is going to be a supply turn. Only Margaret can move me. So in a sense, because Margaret's got a command rating of 2 and Gloucester has a 3, Gloucester is going to be able to operate more rapidly than this big army, which at least that's good. One thing that I don't really like about the Levian campaign is that a larger army can actually move more quickly than a small force. There's something I really don't like about that inherent in the system. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but it's really kind of one of those things that gets on my nerves, is it feels like a small raiding type force should be able to operate more quickly than one of these marshals with a large amount of forces. Now, obviously, look, you can do that by changing the values and making sure the command value on the marshals is relatively low and make them slow and everything. That may not always be applicable though, right? Like, it probably makes sense that they alone should get like a +1 to their command rating in general. And again, one of those little tweaks that I'd be likely to make if I were designing the game or involved in the development, and might end up doing if I go along. Unfortunately, I kind of like to play the games as written unless they really, really bother me. And I'm not sure, right, about this. I'm not sure that this is a general rule that these higher level leaders would actually get all the advantages that they get. But they do get an advantage, which is by interleaving actions, they're able to grab supplies using other lords and move using every single one of their cards. So, it kind of evens out here with Gloucester having the higher command rating. But it generally doesn't. Generally, a large force operates more efficiently than a small force. On my next Margaret turn, which is the next card up there, I will be able to move all this provender. It doesn't look like it. I have 3, 4, 5, 6 carts, right? But he's got the hay wains that doubles this cart, so I'm able to carry 4, 5, 6, 7 provender. So I'm actually perfect with the Lancastrians. This is the last Gloucester move. I don't know what he's doing. I like the idea of Petersborough. I have enough food to do this. And that'll drop me down. The last card I have is a pass. We've got a Margaret, which I got to kind of move the army. Now, I could do a 1 move to here. We can put the chase on. A 2 move up to here, or to St. Albans. I like this better. And eat the food that I've got. Which will be 1, 2, 1. That leaves me 4 food, enough to operate off of. This is the magic of the boats and whatnot. And it puts me within striking range of Gloucester, and he doesn't have any more moves, so it's kind of a strong position. I bypassed Gloucester itself by using that highway, so that's kind of cool. We get a pass here. Now, obviously, I don't want to fight anyone with just Somerset, so he's going to do some sort of supply action for me. Nothing but towns around me under my own control, or exhausted stuff. I'm kind of forced into not getting a lot of provender off that. That puts us to our Tides of War. No lords anywhere anymore. Everybody's in the center. Dominion. Looks like 2 points for the Yorkists again for that. Another point for the Yorkists. They have the advantage in terms of control of territory. Most favored at cities. Okay, so towns and fortresses cancel out. Cities is 2 more. I really ought to count up the stuff on the board, but it's such a pain to do, and I think I'm probably pretty close, so, or right. No capability cards. Influence doesn't count this turn. There's nothing special this turn, so we go to the next levy. We've got a situation where Margaret is chasing down the only Yorkist heir on the map. However, he could bring someone else in. We're not far. Let's see. Salisbury is nowhere near. So the only person we could bring in is March over here. Ugh. Wish I'd brought him in earlier now, because I'm in a position where, you know, my forces would be divided by Margaret's. I have no other lords. No, I have one more. I have, what's his name, Pembroke, who is a lot safer way back over here, and I can probably operate him a little bit more easily. And this is a gain Lord's influence turn, which is a big deal to try to maintain any kind of advantage there. You know, I'm not going to be able to reach the victory check, but I may be able to keep my IP high enough and just dodge around the country until some point at which Margaret just gives up on being queen, you know, because she's just not having any fun with it, I guess. I really don't. Again, I really don't know what the intention there is with ending the game before somebody hits the victory check, but that victory check not dropping. Like, the two seem like they're compatible answers, which is showing that war weariness type effect. But they got rid of it for the grand campaign for some reason. How many times will I say that? I don't know. I really don't know. But we shall see what happens. And we're on a 6-card turn now. We can see the number of cards. They always align every year. All right. So here we are. I got to shuffle that in. It was in the levy phase. This is from last turn and has to go back into play. But before I get to the cards, I might as well say where we are. We've got Margaret having gathered up all the Lancastrian lords that are on the board right now and is chasing Gloucester. Can he get away? Probably because he has more command points. Only Margaret can move. She has 2, but she would have the advantage because she has 2 subordinate lords who can handle supplying and whatnot in between her 3 cards. So she has a total of 6 move actions possible. Gloucester has 9 actions possible, but probably has to spend a third of those on trying to keep his force supplied. He's low on provender, but he does have cards, etc. Anyway, let me shuffle that card in and we'll keep going. But again, he wants to try to just avoid getting captured, getting knocked out. Who can he bring in still? Well, he's got 2 choices. He's got Edward of March, which I saw as a problem. He's got Pembroke, who's a little further away and therefore might be safer in terms of being separated from Gloucester. Always worried about things like just shuffling 1 card in. And the deck's fairly large, so if I do some riffles, it's probably pretty safe. I did like 4 or 5, not the 7 that one would normally do. But, you know, honestly, there are people who are able to keep a card and control where it is in the deck. And while I can't do that consciously, I don't trust that I can't do it subconsciously. Same with dice control. And look what's right on top. You see, I just don't trust me. And then this campaign, Devon as extra parlays for no influence cost and automatic success. What the hell does that mean? See, normally, unless I'm screwing something up, when you parlay, you don't have to check influence, so there's no influence cost, unless I'm missing something here. If Lord is at target, add or remove favor, yeah, that's free. And the only thing I can think of is that you can do adjacent as if you're there. Anyway, this is for Devon, who we have lost. So not of any importance. I can't use this as one of my cards for the muster. It's pay time. What do we got? Well, everybody's together. So they could share money, but they're not allowed to unless they must. That's one of the standard rules of the system. And now we're at influence for lords. Well, we're on a turn where all lords are worth something anyway. So that'll be 2 in favor of the Yorkists because there are more Lancastrian lords on the board. And the vassals, that's Suffolk, who has to show up at Ipswich, and Norfolk, who does not show up in the north. You'd think Suffolk is more southern than Norfolk, and it is. So I don't know. I just don't know. Okay. Do we have any vassals? No, we don't. Everything's been paid out. We go to the muster period. The important thing here, I think, is for Gloucester to try to bring someone in, just to make sure that he doesn't lose the game on one turn. That brings me up to 3. 2 more influence would bring me up to a 4. I'm going to go for a 3 and try to bring Pembroke in. No good. I'll use my second action to do the same. I'm not thrilled about this, but... And now we are stuck with only Gloucester on the board, which means we're in danger, right? We've used both our actions. Lancastrian parleys cost more. What does Margaret want to do? That's a good question. I got to think about this. Because I probably do want to bring more lords in, because this is a this is a gain lord's influence phase, which means maybe this is time to bring Northumberland in with his big 4 influence. But maybe it's time to bring a lot of lords in and just try to swing these points all the way over and still concentrate on hunting Gloucester down. I started looking through cards for Somerset, the only person who can grab cards, because that's the first thing I want to see. And I see this barded horse, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. The lord's retinue and or his or her vassals have armor 1 to 3 against missile, but armor 1 to 5 against melee. Well, the 1 to 5 against melee is good, but for retinue and vassals, this is a decrease against missiles. And probably not a great capability. Anyway, I'm going to go back to looking at the other capabilities, but yeah, I wouldn't do this one. Now, you might end up forced with it at the beginning of a scenario. You might just draw it and have to assign it. So to start things off, Somerset focused on getting Trollope and some additional troops, just because I feel like I need more force to make things work. Okay. But then I'm going to go to Margaret and try to muster Northumberland with her. That costs 1 influence for a 4, 2 for a 5. Might as well. Northumberland seems worth paying 2 for. Yeah, we're going to get him. And do I want to go for yet another? That's going to switch an area. Either Exeter or Jasper would add something. Harlech's worth more points. So I'm going to actually go for Jasper as well. I'm going to spend 2 on that as well and try to get the... Yeah, I don't know if that's worth it. But anyway, try to get the 1 through 5. And we get that as well. So we've brought a lot of lords into play. The main reason for these is because of the lord's influence. I could have played... There was one I was thinking of this, but I was also thinking of there was one that gives Somerset an influence each turn. But I don't feel like this game is about influence right now. I feel like we've got our chance to wipe Gloucester out. Maybe not, though, because there's a lord in exile. So no matter what, Rutland can come back in exile. next turn. So even if I do wipe out Gloucester, I still have not fixed. I still have not ended the war. So I don't know. Maybe I should have, but whatever. So that uses up everybody except Oxford. Oxford, I think, is going to want more troops too. Do I have enough provender sitting on hand? I have enough carts. There's not a whole hell of a lot I can do with Oxford. I'm not allowed... Well, I am allowed to parley, but it's not very good. It might be worth it to get Coventry to get the extra troops there, because I need to feed and whatnot. But there are also vassals I can pull into play. So let's look. Where do I have vassals? Well, I have Essex. I have Norfolk. Those are the only ones I could take. They're such a limited term that they're going to cost influence, but if I could use them this turn, that might be good enough. So let's take a 3 on Essex, try to bring him in. Do I have enough coins? Yeah, I'll have enough coins for another turn at least. Good enough. So I get Essex, and I think I don't like doing this, but I think I'll take another couple of troops there too. And with a town, I'm sorry, with a city, I get cities and towns mixed up. Like, to me, none of these are really cities, right? London counts as a city, and maybe York does and stuff, but there are very few of these so-called cities that are really all that big. So that uses up all my activity. I just have to program these guys in, and then we're done with the levy phase. So I will flip that over. What did I bring in? I brought in Jasper and Northumberland both. Yeah. Feeling awfully bloody. Why is this here? Wrong player's card. I'm feeling awfully bloody jittery. I think it's the coffee. I haven't had coffee in quite a while, and now I had my 4 cups or whatever it is that I allow myself. But yeah, it's like I'm wired in weird sort of ways that I'm just not used to anymore. I drink tea all the time, but I've held off on coffee. It gives me a feeling of, geez, I really ought to eat or something. Something's wrong, feeling kind of dizzy and whatnot the way I would if I haven't eaten for a while. Anyway, I do tend to pause between the levying campaign, and even though I'm all charged up and everything, I will again, what the fuck is up with Essex? Did I put the guy I just took on the wrong thing? Yeah. He should be on next turn. I get confused as to where I am, because there's so much clutter in the space. And this is common to the levying campaign. The little marker for what turn it actually is so much less distinguishable. Prominent. Prominent is the word I'm looking for here. So I'm having trouble finding words nowadays. That I have a really, really hard time with, it feels like this is the break line between what's to come and what's now. And it just, because there's clutter on the current turn, I just kind of feel like that's not the current turn. That clutter should be cleaned up already. But it can't be, you can't move, you can't just slide this back to try to indicate something or something along that line. It doesn't work because there are some things that allow you to move those things around on the calendar sometimes. I don't know in this game, but in some of the levying campaigns, there are such cards that force stuff to move around. All right. Anyway, long story short, I'm taking a break. Well, let's get the campaign done before I crash for the morning or whatever it is. I mean, it's clearly morning. I don't know what time. But the jitters are gone. I'm on to tea and have been for a little while now. For the Yorkists, it's pretty easy. I am going to do Gloucester 3 times in a row quickly, and then passes from then on, simply because I got to get out of the range. Quite often I would hold on to, I would make my actions late in the turn, but I want to move quickly. I want to get out of the danger zone, as it were. Do I have anything that can help me here? Yeah, I have this. Maybe I want to do the opposite then. Maybe I want to do the passes, force Margaret to take her actions first and then get the hell out of Dodge. I think that actually makes sense since I do have that Art of War card. We'll go over to the Lancastrians and see what they're going to do. They have a whole bunch of lords, some of which maybe need to grab some coinage. Like Northumberland only has 1 coin, but he's basically in the game for this turn to get me some IP. Somerset only has 1. Margaret and Oxford might kind of pad that out a little bit, but not really. Like if I wanted to disband Oxford, that wouldn't really help me because he can't loan money or anything like that. He can't use his money for Somerset next turn. So Somerset's going to have to figure out a way to tax. Now, luckily for me, not so luckily for me, I don't have a path going back to Wells, which may mean that Somerset's going to have to retire fairly soon. Or I could leave him behind, but I have my intentions. We'll figure out their cards for now, but just giving you some of the ideas of what is the danger and risk of having so many lords out on the board at once is, yeah, they're going to be hard to maintain on the field at the same time. And some of that's peculiar to this particular levy and campaign game. Other ones, having a lot of lords out generally just means, so coinage is used in a semi-similar sort of fashion. You don't pay your troops every turn in the other games. What you do is you pay to extend your service. And if you have a lot of service markers on the board, you have to start worrying about the coinage that you can gather. But it's also usually easier to gather coinage. It's a matter of, yeah, I just tax. You don't have these depleted markers all over and whatnot. These are really providing a different flavor of restriction on what you can have available at any one time. And that's one of the this is the kind of differences that I say really makes this such a related game, but it doesn't really feel like the same system anymore, right? It feels like it's just a very, very similar system, the same way as, SPI games taking a different combat result table from what the Avalon Hill Classics did. One which focused retreats more and relied more on surrounding and trying, to defeat units by forcing the retreats into places where they couldn't, as opposed to, oh look, on a 1-to-1 attack, you've got, each a 1 in 6 chance of destroying the other person. Just this sort of weird, neither one represented anything particularly accurately, but they were both trying, they're in their own ways to express something that hadn't been expressed before. And that's what Levy and Campaign is doing. It's expressing something that hasn't been adequately expressed before. And I think it's a lot further on than, those old classics were. Our thinking here, as I work through it. I know I haven't been doing that all that much, but here I'm in a very complex situation where I have 5 different lords and stuff I want to do. Now, not taking into account what I know that Gloucester is going to do. I'm going to start off with Margaret, but I look at my provender, and I have 6 provender over the 3 lords that are together, which means I can move twice. So to give me a jump, I'm going to try to move twice with Margaret, and now I'm in trouble, right? Now I may be in real problems. Depends on where I am, etc. But either Oxford or Somerset should go next. Kind of doesn't matter which. I want it to be whoever's most likely to survive, which I am going to say is actually Oxford, because he has 2 vassals instead of 1. Plus he has the boats, which gives me potentially some additional advantages. And then do another Margaret. So Oxford's in charge of getting me supplies. Margaret is in charge of a final blow if I need it. That's 4 of what? 6 cards that I'm allowed to play. Now, Northumberland needs to raise income. I could play 2 Northumberland cards to get Appleby, but I still wouldn't have a vassal next turn. But here's the thing. Let's say I move to Appleby. We got a penalty here where I'd have to pay extra influence. If I move to Appleby, which will cost me 1 move, I'll eat my provender. It'll take me 2 actions to convert Appleby over, and then I'd have 1 more action. So if I play two different Northumberland cards, I would actually be in a position where maybe I can keep him alive, because I can be in a position to levy Westmoreland into Northumberland's command and as a vassal, and then be able to tax there. This is also a grow turn, which means I could tax next turn, so I could keep Northumberland alive no matter what, because he is able to tax. So what do we want to do? Well, I'm safe with Jasper. I think the 2 Northumberlands is actually my best move, and this is just what I'm gonna plan for. All these up there. But now we reveal a pass and say, but wait, there's a truce. And now there's no more approaches or intercepts for the rest of this campaign. So this turn becomes kind of a cipher, a blank in terms of everything. And now we're on Margaret, and I got no idea what I'm going to do, because it's not what I planned for. I planned to be chasing Gloucester and being able to try to take him down. And I've simulated that well by not, trying to figure out what I would do under these circumstances. So now I do have to spend the time to figure that out, just like a real player would. I came up with my plans, and now my plans have been foiled by a card, as so often happens in life. I'm often facing bad cards that have been played against me. Really problematic, because I have 2 Margarets in a row, or Maggies as I like to call her. But I've got this penalty too. So like, I can't just convert territories and be happy with that. Those are going to cost me IPs and put me in a bad position. I don't know what I'm going to do. I really don't. I've been put in a really, really ugly place by this situation. Can I gather food? Is that appealing in any way? There's not a hell of a lot available. So given that I know this, and I know I have another Margaret, I think I'm going to move to Coventry. For some reason, Margaret in Coventry happens a lot in Kingmakers. I don't know why. I think there's a royal castle near there or something. I don't know. But anyway, and then try to grab some supplies from there. Another option would be to try to move to the coast might be appealing instead. Of course, there aren't cities along the coast here. In fact, for the most part, there aren't cities to supply from. So maybe an appealing choice would be to move down to Gloucester and try to supply through Bristol, where I have a boat at least. But it's a grow turn. I might as well move around and stay in the center where I have more flexibility, I guess. Gloucester has done his 3 passes. His next actions are going to be his own to choose. He will move where he sees most fit. Margaret also moved up to Lichfield, and now we're sitting on an Oxford action. I've been spending IPs to convert areas that I'm in. I'm going to have to do that again. So Oxford will spend an IP to grab Lichfield, and who knows how that's pronounced, honestly. Lichfield. And then I got one more action with Oxford. I'm going to grab supplies from somewhere. Where do I want to take them from? I have a bunch of carts. I don't have a sea route, so we will, I don't know, guess we'll grab 2 from country, as we shall call it. Yeah, I know. And that'll get me 2 provender. Still not Pronder, I don't know. And that'll take them out of commission for this. And now I got to start figuring out what Gloucester is going to do. But he's gotten a big safety net because Margaret used up 2 of her cards. I know she's only got 1 more. Otherwise, they might send a small force out, something that he could actually perhaps fight. However, he probably doesn't want to, even so. And that may be something to keep in mind, is that whoever's up next, and I think I got another Margaret here. Yeah, whoever's up next could just intercept him if he's staying, could chase him if he's staying nearby. Now, unfortunately for me, the next 2 cards are both Northumberland cards, which are not going to be able to chase Gloucester no matter what. But he probably wants to put some distance just in case there's somebody who can chase. Margaret continues to gather supplies for herself, just for the sake of, yeah, I don't know what else to do at this point. Staying centrally located, Gloucester actually runs all the way down to London, converts it over. Remember, that's worth a couple of points. Right now we've got all, no, we don't have Harlech anymore. We've got two of the big 2-point areas. Plus we're in a position to start breaking up the south, which has been a Lancastrian stronghold. Just as the north was a Yorkist one, but now there are no areas under anyone's control. And it's just really a question of location-wise, the Lancastrians will have a couple of points here. The Yorkists will be able to get 1 on the last Gloucester point. I can't do this yet. This happens at the end of the turn, but I'm going to get rid of this because Warwick's gone. There's no reason for me to hold this because York and Warwick are both dead at this point. I'm going to just discard this ahead of time because otherwise I'll forget. This is a card that I'd rather keep as a possible as a possible capability, because it's not worth anything as a hold card. We finish things off with Gloucester going down here to, what is this, Guildford? And you don't pronounce the D, of course. Whereas here at Albi, we've converted that over at the cost to IP. Yeah, it's looking ugly. And grabbed ourselves some supplies. But now we hit the tides of war. Ah! Oh no, this is the north. I thought this green line was the divider. Where Lancastrians have 1 for that. Dominion, none. Favor in London and Calais is 4, make it 3 in the Yorkist favor, as they keep getting more power. Cities, fortresses and towns cancel out. Cities give me 2. And then capability cards, I don't think I played it. I had one I was considering, I think I chose against it. Which means we go down to, this is a Gain Lord's Influence turn. So Gloucester's worth 2, that cancels this out. 4, 7, 8, 9, 13 points in the Lancastrians' favor. And that's why bringing all those lords in was worthwhile. They only cost me 1 influence to keep them on the board, but they each provide at least 2. So on this turn, it was definitely worth it. And then this is a grow phase, which means I worry about removing all the depleted and reducing the exhausted. Making the world a much, much friendlier place. And now we're slipping into the waste turn. This is the last turn you need coinage. You don't want to tax on this turn? Sure. I was thinking, oh, I want to tax with Northumberland. No, I don't. This is the waste turn. This is the turn I get for free, so I get to hold off on pulling that point. How long do I want to keep this up? Well, next turn's another Gain Lord's influence turn. So yeah, I probably want to keep these guys on there. Keep generating those points. Now, of course, it costs me 1 influence per lord, which means that lords that I have on the board are each going to cost me, you know, 1 for this turn, 1 for this turn. So anybody who's worth 2, I could get rid of if they're not terribly valuable to me at this point. And we might be in a position where I want to get rid of someone like Oxford, although he's got a good military capability, you know? He's got a couple of vassals on him. He's got an extra valor. He's not bad. On the other hand, you know, Jasper, sure, I could get rid of Jasper, but he's holding down Wales. As long as we're down to 1 lord for the Yorkists, then, you know, the situation is such that, like, 1 good military lord anywhere on the board is a threat to him. And what does he have that he can bring into play? Well, on this next turn, he could bring something in Pembroke. It'd be useful to have Jasper to fight that. And he could bring in March. So over here, what he is going to be getting, though, almost certainly is Rutland, because he can muster him in exile for free. There's reasons you might not want to muster somebody who went into exile, which is if you don't have the cards, if you don't have enough actions to get them out of exile, they're going to cost you 2 influence on the next turn, because you have to pay them here. Now, notably though, you don't have to pay them, like, they're in exile on the calendar when you have to pay them, and then they show up on the board and can act right away. So there's never really a time when you're forced to pay that too, unless, like, there's a naval blockade or something like that. Anyway, that's where we are. Whatever. My brain's still buzzing and I'm still weird compared to normal. Like, weird for me. Let's just put it that way. Feeling too charged up just to even relax and read for a bit. So let's do the levy phase here. And Gloucester is there. This levy, Gloucester may parley +3 times for 0 lordship. It's still going to cost me influence, but intriguing. I don't know. You know, sure. And seamanship, Yorkists can sail for just 1 command action. Well, maybe I want boats, maybe I don't. I don't know. Without Warwick, feels weird. Ford prevents an exile. Not really helpful. There's no Yorkist lords who can just exile and recuperate that way, so it might be not that big a deal. And rising wages. Yorkist lords must pay 1 coin per levy troops action. Yeah, well, I guess we aren't going to do that. All payments, yeah. We have London. We are able to tax that, but I believe that requires an influence check to do, right? Yeah. And what am I doing? Tax, payments. Yeah, so everybody's just going to pay their one here. And now we're running a little short, but it's okay. We're on a waste turn. We can ignore money on waste turns, remember? I mean, sort of. Lords that we want to keep? Well, obviously we have to keep Gloucester. Actually, we don't, because we could bring this in. That is over here, Rutland or whatever. And do I want to pay 5? This is a good question. I'm getting 1 per turn for being in Wales, so I want to keep that there. 1 per turn for being in the north, so I want to keep that there. Do I want to get rid of any of these? You know, I mean, maybe, but there's a lot of power amongst them. So I'm going to pay the 5 minus 1 is 4 to keep them all on the board. And then, do we have any vassal problems? Essex. Essex. See, this is the thing. Maybe I wanted to discard him, if that's the case. Although he has the Haywains, but they're not that great. What is this? He has the ship. Whatever. Do I want to pay an extra influence for Essex? I don't think so. I think Essex is worth putting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way out here. He won't be back. Get Westmoreland, who's now available up there. And guess it's muster time. All right, first thing, parlay 3 times for 0 lordship. Do I want to grab some stuff? I still have to pay for it all. That's the problem. And he's not that good. He's a 2. Am I gaining much by grabbing the areas that are near me? Maybe. It's really hard to tell. I just don't think I really terribly want to do that, though. That's the whole problem. Like, I could grab Winchester, but that may be the way I want to move anyway, in which case it starts becoming kind of expensive. I just don't see much value to it. Calais' mine already, yeah, London's mine. I just don't see doing it. But I do think that getting another lord on the board is of some value. Which lord do I want? Yeah, we're on a 6-card turn. Let us try to get Rutland on the board. I'll spend 2 influence to give me a 3 on him. Okay, so I get him. I don't know what to do with the remaining one. I can't use this, but maybe there's another one in there. Nah, no. I may want to do something. I may want to grab a card. Unfortunately for me, it seems like Hastings isn't available. All of the sort of special vassals, other than him, are Lancastrians. So they're a really cool thing, but I don't know. I got people like Suffolk who would be a valuable addition. However, I don't feel like I'm directly threatened right now. Let's take those 2 back. Rutland does not come in through that mechanism. Rutland comes in here in Burgundy for free, which means I actually have 2 lords to fiddle around with at this point. And do I want another lord? I don't think so. This is a waste turn. It resets things, but I don't know. Let's take a look. Salisbury would be in significant danger. Pembroke is facing a full Jasper Tudor. That might not be a bad choice. March. Must be raining. March has less troops, but more valor. It's kind of a weird mix. It's like, which one's better? But he would be in too much danger, in my view. I think I am going to... Yeah, I know, I rolled the die before, but that was for something different. I think I am going to try to bring Pembroke in. And I get him instead. So that leaves me with a point on Gloucester and 2 points on Rutland to still use. I don't know what I was doing. I thought I was mustering for Pembroke. I actually tried to muster for Rutland, trying to get him this. He failed. That dropped my IP a couple of points. And not doing this. Gloucester grabbed himself some more carts. I grabbed a ship for Rutland, which is important because I'm coming over from Burgundy. Actually pretty vital. Pembroke, his main reason for being here is to prevent Jasper from being able to take over Wales. I feel like that's sort of a fair trade-off. Now I go over to the Lancastrians, and oh boy, do they have a lot of musters. I am not going to muster Exeter because next turn is the interesting turn for him. For the Lancastrians, all kinds of complexity here. All right, let's take a look at what I did. I took a cart and some militia that I grabbed from here. Somerset took a ship and a cart. Margaret, same thing. I can hold on to one boat without rounding it down. The excess carts will give me more mobility for the next year. So now that I'm in a waste turn, I'm going to lose half my carts. Might as well get that number up a little higher, just so that I can operate a little better if I'm keeping all these. Northumberland, I think 2 carts for him. Tudor, yeah, I got too much provender for my carts, but the hell with that, I don't care. He actually just starts with that. I grabbed the Welsh Lord card, and I grabbed Westmoreland as a vassal so that I'm capable of taking Pembroke out. Make him pay for doing that. Now, I know that Pembroke was just mustered, which means he's not going to have anything on him, anything new. So I'm going to be more powerful. And it was just dumb to put him there, as far as I'm concerned. Feels like the Yorkists are making mistakes left and right here. And that gets us to the campaign phase. Do I want to... kind of want to just play it out. We're only at 4 cards. Yeah, let's play it out. I'm like wired, man. Haven't had coffee in too long. I'm not feeling sick from it anymore, but I am feeling altered. Rutland really sucks. Gloucester's a lieutenant. That's useful. I'm looking at this. Maybe I don't want to do this. I'm looking at a sail. Okay, that only cost me 1 command. I get 1 command for my card, so it's the same thing. And then convert twice. What if instead... Rochester's not a port. Canterbury's not a port. 1, 2, 3 conversion. Don't have any food on Gloucester. I'm thinking I want to get Gloucester over to Rutland and combine them together. So I think I'm going to do this. But let's put a Rutland. Let's put a Rutland in the 2nd spot. Just making a guess rather than calculating everything out there. And now, oh my God, what a pile. But I am planning on using Jasper to try to wipe Pembroke out before he gets a chance to muster anything. I think it's very easy. 2 Jaspers to do taxation, do a fight, convert, whatever this is it a castle? Yeah, it's a fortress. And then Margaret's to move Maggie where she needs to go, which might be after Rutland, might be after Gloucester. That opens us up. Not working right. I was going to do Jasper, tax, and then move. There's no reason to. In fact, it's horrible because I'm on a waste turn. I'm going to get my coin back no matter what. Not that I have to pay any yet. I want to make sure that this is not depleted. I don't need food. I've got too much food for my carts as it is. Do I want Chester? Because that's really all I have. I don't have boats, so I can't intervene anywhere. Yeah, I might as well. Let's go at 3 for Chester. Hey, we get it. And that gets us a city point. That's a big deal, actually. And then I'm going to waste my next point because there's nothing I want to do. And just move down here and launch an attack. Now, what's Pembroke's feeling with this? I could just go into fucking exile. Yeah, except I can't. There's a card to screw with that, isn't there? Yeah. But I don't know that. Do I want to go into exile? Yeah, if I knew I would trigger that card, I definitely would do it, but I'm here for a reason. Reason doesn't make sense if I throw myself into exile, so fight we will, even though it probably isn't going to go well. And the missile fire is just ugly with that Welsh Lord card here. We're looking at 11 hits to 7. Uh-oh. And the retinue holds up pretty well. A valor spent. Things are not going well here, but they're going better than they might. I didn't lose the battle on the archery phase, but I do have to still fight at, I do 4 hits on the Lancastrians, and I'll be taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hits myself with less capability. Now, I wiped out all their crap as well, but they have more not crap. And Pembroke's retinue broke. Men-at-Arms didn't, but that doesn't matter. And the only cost for Jasper was a valor token that he had to use up. That means Pembroke falls. That's 2 over. What's his chance of dying? 2/3. Bye-bye. Yeah, another mistake by the Yorkists. This is in a Yorkist territory, though, so no spoils. At least there's that, right? Rutland comes out of exile. Gloucester's in charge of converting everything. I hope my count is okay here. Tudor has taken Pembroke Castle and grabbed himself some supplies, but he's done his job, basically, right? That will put us to the couple Gloucester cards, and then we have Maggie to probably move down and try to challenge the 2 York brothers. Where I want to be, and maybe I would have been if I had like played that card where I would have gotten to get things. I have 3 actions. If I move into here, I have 2. I have to convert Dover over. I can't ship into Dover unless it's mine. And that would leave me with no food. Rutland didn't have any extra food. That means Rutland's not going to be able to muster because I do 2 actions here. gets me 2 more city points. And then I have 1 more where I can grab some resources from Canterbury and get myself a couple of provender. So miscalculated. It happens. And Margaret is working her way down, but has to grab Gloucester, which gets us 2 city points back. And, you know, just maneuvering around to try to bring this final battle out in the south. But it's hard to do because, you know, I got this capability to, like, to muster up troops anywhere on the board. Not anywhere, but in York or in Wales, or near Wales, I can't control everything, right? But the one thing I can hope for is that these musters, you know, with a command, with an influence rating of 2, are likely to not succeed unless he pays a lot of influence and whatnot. You know, that itself has its own advantage. I don't like the fact that I'm behind on influence. Let's take a look at what our points are, and then we'll do the wastage. North-South Wales, what do we got? We got 2 Lancastrians versus 1 of these Yorkies. Domination. Nothing's dominated. But then the cities, 2, 4, make it 3. Another point for cities versus towns, assuming I have that right. There are no capability cards out in play right now. And then we go to wastage. I think we have some people with 2 ships, don't we? Yeah, we got him with 2 ships. And I'll take care of that. Everybody gets to reset their troops and all kind of crap like that. That gets us into the levy for the 3rd year. Things look much, much better on the Lancastrian point of view. I wish there was a way of scoring each scenario on its own. You know, I mean, obviously, look, yeah, the Lancastrians won the first one. They kept the crown. They're going to win this one, presumably, although it's not obvious. Points are higher here, so conceivably the Yorkists could just wear them out and then they leave. You know, it's like, you know, Prince Edward, Queen Margaret, they would just retire. Even though they have the military advantage, they don't have the support of the people, and they would just flee. I just don't buy it. I feel like something that should be reflected in the game situation should deteriorate their position, if that's the case. Like, in a way that it doesn't. There should be some kind of snowballing. Now, maybe that would be no fun to play out if that's the case, but this is just, I just don't find this acceptable. This whole, you know, yeah, I'm ahead by 1, you know, I win, go home. Just because maybe I can't press the last of the Yorkist lords to battle, and another one springs up somewhere. And, you know, you would think, though, with all these successes and everything, the Lancastrians should be ahead, but they're not. They're not. And why aren't they? Well, a lot of it has to do with Calais and London being in Yorkist hands. So, you know, contesting those seems like an important factor, but it's not like possessing London would change the course of things. It, you know, it changes the point differential each turn, but I could still lose with London in my hands with a massive army, just, you know, with Gloucester running around playing hide and go peep and spawning, you know, a new lord here, there, and everywhere. And it's just a matter of, yeah, I don't buy that Margaret would give up in those cases. I would not, I just don't accept that the person who's winning the war militarily and just losing, you know, barely in these points would just surrender at the end of 3 years or whatever, just because it's 3 years. It's like, yeah, you know, I feel like we worked hard enough at it, and yeah, screw it. We'll just go to France. Nah, it is very hard to accept. And given the fact that the one historical scenario that I looked at, like the one non-campaign scenario that I looked at, has this like decreasing victory check and everything, which helps make sense, right? Like, to me, it's not that the years run out, it's that the tolerance for continuing to fight a losing war would run out. So like this barrier gets closer and closer. And again, it's something I would change, but I'm probably not going to get a chance to play again. And if I brought this to play opposed, which is likely the only way that I would get to play something, not that I have any friends anymore, is that I would end up wanting to play by the rules under those circumstances. Things are a little different when I'm looking at like EU or Empires in Arms, where I'm like, look, you have to interpret a lot of stuff anyway in those games, so here's how I would fix this. With this, it's a competitive enough game and everything that I would feel pained to make that kind of change. Anyway, that's where we're at. The Lancastrians, obviously, as far as I'm concerned, winning the game, as far as I can tell. Winning all the battles and everything, but somehow or another just not able to get that important thing, which is the public sentiment in their favor, enough to declare a victory. But worse than that, they're in a position where they're really being pushed against the ropes to do something about this. And they've been trying to bring the Yorkists to battle and succeeding and knocking out Yorkist lords. It's just they can't do it fast enough, and eventually Margaret's just going to pack her stuff and go back to France, because this is just too, I'm too old for this shit, is what she's saying, And Edward's like, but Mammy, I want to be king. Nah, you can come back in 20 years and try that, or 10 years or whatever. We'll let the hunchback rule for a while for no apparent reason, even though we outnumber him militarily and probably would be weaker. Now, of course, given that Henry VII shows up, and no, I can't remember who he is. Henry VII shows up as, Henry Tudor, but he has a title, and it's not Bolingbroke, and I don't remember what it is. Is it Pembroke? I don't know. That doesn't sound right. Shows up, and I don't remember my Shakespeare here. That's the real issue. And has a victory over Gloucester. It's obvious that there's no real great advantage to being the king, as far as I see. It may depend. It may be that third scenario if your Gloucester is particularly bad, just because he's, he caused issues. But sort of the assumption is that anyone who's ruling will cause issues. But again, whatever. Anyway, let's send this up, and then I'll come in with my, hey, what happened thus far at the beginning of each video, and whatever other ramblings I have in my coffee-addled existence.